Richard Stanley, or as his friends and family called him, Big Rich, was reported missing on June 24th, 2022, and his last known whereabouts was at the southern edge of Conecuh National Forest, near the southern border of Alabama. A friend of his had found his lost tape and delivered it to me upon my request. I invite you to join me as we listen to Richard's last words. Enjoy this prelude to the Church of Syn. I came into these woods to get away from my wife. Was hoping that the gray ghost rumors that's been spreading around was kind of true. Get picked up by a cultist or something, go to the Church of whatever, of Syn, whatever they call it, and put me out of my misery. It's all anybody these days been talking about in Andalusia. But I'm recording this because I found something deep in the swamp. I mean, deep, as in, I don't think a survey crew would find it if they searched. They'd have to bring out a chopper, and why would someone bring out a chopper when you can't see nothing through the trees? Anyway, I found something, and that's why I ran right into one of their traps. He had been missing for 3 weeks before his wife, Sarah, reported him missing. And at first, the local Andalusia Police Department suspected foul play, as Richard and Sarah's neighbors had heard the two of them fighting quite frequently. Because of this, the police focused more on Sarah rather than searching for Richard in Conecuh Forest. But even still, they dispatched a small search team that investigated the Conecuh Forest half-heartedly, and considering the size of the forest, they searched a small portion of it and found nothing. Once word of Richard's disappearance was reported in the Andalusia Chronicle, the Church of Syn conspiracy group lifted the article and claimed that Richard was the latest victim of a cannibalistic cult. Sarah didn't know what the Church of Syn was, and after doing a decent amount of digging, she discovered that this group was a fictional group of people made up of cannibals, and the cultists in question were called Grey Ghosts. Until Richard's disappearance, Sarah had ignored such myths and paid no attention to them when they surfaced in conversation. Months prior to Richard's disappearance, he had joked about getting abducted and flayed like a fish, said it would have been better than living at home with her. Several months had passed before the sudden disappearance of Richard Stanley turned into a homicide case, to a missing persons case, to an abduction case. His rifle, a .30 Winchester, had been discovered at the far reaches of the Conecuh Forest, along with his lost tape. A wandering camper found it, and upon further investigation, the Winchester had not only been used, but it had been damaged. I had a gun. What had I to fear? A good old .30 Winchester. Great for me, bad for deers. But anyway, I brought along a nice old camping setup in my pack. A small tent, real small. My rifle, a tinderbox, and a few other things to make hunting good. I was setting up camp one night and I saw something glowing in the distance. I looked westward and saw a house. Now, I ain't one to bring around GPSs and homing devices so the government can spy on me, but I wish I had. I didn't even bring my cell phone. I didn't have any way to record the coordinates of what I saw. It was a huge house, huge, massive. I think it was a manor, 4 stories tall, and I saw them gray ghosts skulking around inside. It was crazy because they were just milling about inside doing regular old things. And I didn't even think about the fact that I was giving away my location until one of them freaks walked outside the manor, faced directly at me, and shined a flashlight in my direction. I realized they had just seen me just then, but that didn't matter. I raised my good old rifle and shot at the ground. These punks don't scare me, but by God, I don't know how they saw me. I didn't figure it out until I turned around and saw the reflectors behind me. Now I know. They set out a series of reflectors on the trees that reflected the light from the manor. I was blocking a reflector. That's why the cultist shined his light on me. That's how they found me. 3 of them came out. Then one of them started running. The chase was on. I ran. Though the Andalusia Forensic Department concluded that Richard's rifle had in fact been used by conducting a gun residue test, the shells in which would have been discharged were absent. Because of this, the investigating team could not conclude how many shots were fired. They searched a 5-mile radius surrounding the rifle with metal detectors and found nothing. The lead investigator, Anthony Moran, deduced that Richard had fired his weapon at one location and then ran to another. The Conecuh National Forest encompasses 131 square miles, and the most Anthony could search is a 5-mile radius of the forest. Less than 3% of the forest could be searched, and because of this, Sarah felt it hopeless to believe that Richard could somehow be discovered in the remaining 126 square miles of the swampy forest. Though she felt a tremendous amount of guilt, remorse, and sense of loss, she also had to deal with the slings and arrows of accusations. Rumors had started to spread, partly ignited by Richard's family, his mother to be exact, that Sarah had chopped him up and fed him to the gators. Of course, this wasn't true, and it drove Sarah deeper into depression, until eventually she uprooted herself from Andalusia, Alabama, and moved to an unknown location. Had she stayed, or at least kept her phone number, she would have been alerted to a particular piece of clothing which had been found 15 miles away from the rifle. A sliver of jeans red with blood had been found. The piece of clothing was about a foot in length and 3 inches wide. The Andalusia Forensic Department performed a DNA test on this piece of clothing and found that the DNA matched Richard's. I ran. And I saw that same stupid kid everyone else was talking about. That beady-eyed, bold-haired cut, string bean-looking kid was chasing me. His beard looked as god-awful as everyone else's, but I wanted to make some distance between me and him before I started firing. Once I turned around, I realized I ran in the wrong direction. I trailblazed my way back here, but now I couldn't find my marks. I scanned the trees for the notches in them that I had made because they'd lead me out of the forest, but geez, I screwed up. I stood still for a moment and waited for a beady-eyed fool, gun at the ready, but he never showed up. I know he's here with me, I know he is. That's when she came out, a thin, pale woman with black hair and blue eyes. I lowered the gun because she didn't look like she belongs with them, but she wore a dark gray robe just like everyone else in that thing. I asked for her name, but she turned her head like she didn't understand my question. The whole encounter was bizarre because even though she was looking right at me, it felt like she was looking through me. She mumbled something about the Church of Syn and that I was chosen. I said nah with that and raised my rifle. When I did, some wacko from my left smashed it with a lead pipe, bent my rifle, and now it's useless. I swung the rifle like a club for her head and missed, then swung for that bull-haired guy. Knocked him real good against the jaw and he fell. I turned around and ran, and strange enough, that girl just stood there, looking at me, but staring through me. It's so strange. Anyway, I ran at least a mile away, and then I felt a god-awful pain in my right leg. My bones snapped, and when I looked down, I realized I ran right into a bear trap. Even worse than that bull-haired man was getting up. And then they were coming for me. The lead investigator, Anthony, harassed by conspiracists that had insisted he investigate the Church of Syn, resigned from his post amid allegations of incompetence and an unwillingness to take the presence of the alleged church seriously. He released a statement for the public indicating that the public does not understand the immense size and difficulty of investigating missing persons in the Conecuh National Forest, and reiterated several times that the forest itself is more than 100 square miles. The public persisted and demanded helicopters to survey the entire forest and find the elusive manor in which Richard spoke of, but this request was met with a quick rebuttal. The swampy nature of the forest, though unlikely, could conceal a manor, and if the church didn't want to be discovered, Anthony surmised that it would use proper foresight to conceal the manor and any of its other structures. Simply put, Anthony refused to support the idea of using limited resources for a search that will most likely yield nothing, and meanwhile, making those same resources which are needed for active search and rescues unavailable. The public outcry led them to calling on the FBI or CIA to investigate the Church of Syn, as too many people had started to disappear. The FBI issued a simple, comical, yet calculated response. They said, "The Conecuh National Forest is teeming with alligators, coyotes, and venomous snakes. It is unfortunate that there has been an influx in missing persons. However, there have been more visitors to the Conecuh National Forest than usual. We do not know what the Church of Syn is, but it appears that this church has been held accountable for what otherwise could have been inexperienced visitors foraying into a forest unprepared for the environment they found themselves in. We discourage the camping in Conecuh National Forest at this time and encourage individuals to utilize more sensible camping spots. As for investigating the Church of Syn, we will do it once we finish investigating the Illuminati, Bigfoot, the Yeti, the space station on the moon, the Megalodon, and after we find the edge of this flat Earth." I don't know what their plan is. They just stood there staring at me, and then they left. They left me here. I thought for sure I was going to perish. I fought against the bear trap and tried to undo it, but man, I just couldn't. I know that if I move too much or flail or whatever, my leg will be toast. I laid down and kept my leg as still as possible. I screamed, but no one heard me. How could they hear me? But I'm making this tape because I know I ain't getting out of this. Those people are going to come back, and since they're hiding that manor in the forest, I know what they're going to do. They know this forest is massive. They're going to take something and put it as far away from here as possible. I don't know the direction of this manor, but if we're in the western part of the forest, they're going to take my stuff and plant it at the eastern side. And for the manor, from what I can tell, that thing was covered in moss. The roof of that place is probably covered in moss, and I can assume that these people scattered leaves about on top of it to make it blend in with the foliage. A chopper darting overhead ain't gonna be able to tell the difference, ain't no way. I think that's what they're going to do. I think that's how they hide this manor, and with regards to my stuff, I think that's what they're going to do. They're going to plant it somewhere else, so that way the investigators who find it, they search at that location and not here. But this tape isn't about that. This is about Sarah. Look, honey, I'm sorry for running off like I did. I didn't mean to storm out and go camping, and I should have known better. I guess this is an example of be careful what you ask for, right? Because you just might get it and you might regret it. So, since I know I ain't getting out of this, go find yourself a good man, a better man, someone you deserve, because you deserve better than me. I love you, and maybe I'll see you in the next life, but go ahead, move on. Sarah still held onto the tape and listened to it every now and again. Once his shred of jeans had been discovered, the new investigator appointed to the case concluded that Richard was eaten by an alligator, and the proof was his torn pants. He was pronounced dead, and Sarah was able to move forward with Richard's funeral. The case had been closed, and the public turned their attention to another case. There was always another case.